So as we were saying, the priests and the monks, the nuns, the monks and the nuns, the monastics, use this prayer rope continuously, and they pass their fingers at one beat at a time, of course, as they do with the Catholic prayer rope, and they do the Lord have mercy prayer and the Hail Mary full of grace prayer. Each bead has Lord have mercy and the Hail Mary full of grace, as one of the nuns explained to me. So they do both together simultaneously. The strength of the cross is given to us from way back in the Old Testament. If we look at, for example, all the way down to from the beginning, from the book of Genesis, chapter 14, verse 14, we have the example of Abraham, who needed to gather some men together with him to free Lot and Lot's family from their captors. And he took with him men from his family, which meant that Abraham took with him men who were circumcised. That is, in the Hebrew religion, they were circumcised, and that means that they were consecrated to men of God. And he took with him 318 men. He didn't take 218 or 316 or 317 or 319. He took 318 men. So we have to remember, though, that throughout the Old Testament and the New Testament, the saints of God, the prophets of God, Jesus himself, and even St. John the theologian in the book of the Revelations, have been using specific numbers to tell us concerning the symbolism concerning Jesus' name. So here, Abraham's selection of 318 of his kinsmen, which meant that they were circumcised, that means they were consecrated men of God, as he was. 318. So if we take in the Greek alphabet, not the Hebrew, if we take the Greek alphabet, and we go from alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, zeta, eta, theta, iota, and we go to alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, and we have the in-between on the 6 is the sigma tau, okay, the special number. We have that iota is number 10, which out of the 318 is number 10. Eta, which stands for the second letter of Isus in Greek, is iota eta, or it looks like IH, okay? I is iota in Greek, and the H is like eta, okay? I has the value of 10, and eta, the H, has the value of 8. And T is 300. So we have T is 300, I is 10, and 8, H or eta is 8. So that 310 is actually T-I, eta, T-I-H. I don't know if you can see this or not. I just jotted it down. Here you go. So you can check it for yourself. That is in Genesis chapter 14, verse 14. Okay? That's something very specific. Goes all the way back to the book of Genesis. So it symbolizes Jesus Christ on the cross. T is the mark, the cross. T, taf. Taf, T is the cross. The cross. Christ, T. Okay? So that's the first one, is the cross is Jesus Christ. The strength of Abraham's victory over the captors of Lot was that he took with him the symbol of Jesus Christ. 318 men consecrated to God, symbolizing Christ on the cross. 318. Okay, so there was no way he couldn't succeed in what he did. He took the 318 men. The second evidence that we have of the cross is in Moses's event where they were in after the Exodus, they were fighting the Amalekites. They had to fight the Amalekites. Joshua had to fight the Amalekites while Moses and Caleb and Aaron, Caleb, that is Ben-Hur of the house of Hur, went up the mountain in order to view the battle as it was going on against the Amalekites. And Caleb was standing on one side of Moses and Aaron on the other. Caleb Ben-Hur of the house of Hur was standing on the other side, and they were supporting Moses, who took the sign of the cross. He had to lift his arms. His arms were lifted up, and because of the fact that his arms were getting weary from being extended such a long time, Aaron was supporting one arm, and Caleb with Ben-Hur was supporting Moses on the other. Whenever Moses' arms would begin to fall, Joshua would began losing the battle against the Amalekites. Whenever Moses' arms were supported by high priest Aaron, his brother, 7 years older than him, and Caleb, Joshua would become victorious again. So this is the symbol of the strength of the cross, which stature Moses was using, and they won the battle against the Amalekites because of this stature that Moses had overlooking the battle from the mountain. Moses explained to them later that God himself would take the form of human flesh and come and teach them from his own mouth further intricate, implicit teachings of his love and his commandment and his mercy. So this is from Exodus chapter 17, verse 10 to 16. Exodus chapter 17, verse 10 to 16. And all throughout the Old Testament, we see that the mark was Taf, T. Okay, the T. In the Hebrew, at the time of the Exodus, the symbol for Taf or T was this. And doesn't that look like a doorpost? The doorposts and the lintel of the doorpost. This is what the mark that of the T. This is the mark that God told the Hebrews to put on their entrance to their houses, to put the lamb of the blood of the Passover over their doorposts and the lintel of their entrance to their houses, so that God, the vengeance of God, would not strike them in the plague that had to do with the death of the firstborn. Okay, this was during the time of the Exodus of the Passover, first Passover. So the sign of the cross, which we have going on, I have to tell you that it protects us, whether we take it, whether we do it. We do the sign of the cross from heaven to earth, from the right to the left, symbolizing from Egypt, which was on the left, to Israel, which was to the east. Okay, from heaven to earth, from Egypt, God took us and saved us, and took us to the land of the Holy Land of milk and honey, of his blessing and his promise to Israel. We are Israel. We are his beloved. Never forget that. We should never forget how lucky we are for what he has given us. Now, concerning the cross, I had a friend who had a lot of problems going on in their family. This friend was Protestant, married to a Greek Orthodox here in Greece. And all of a sudden they started having tremendous problems with health. one after the other, everybody was getting sick. Her husband, her son, her daughter, from pneumonia to bronchitis to pneumonia to whatever, And the little girl was completely sick. She was taking 14 pills a day, even though she was 4.5 years old. It was a terrible situation. Everybody was getting sick. Even her animals were getting sick. Her dog and her cat, her German Shepherd and cat. And after months of all this going on, I was wondering how this girl could stand it. I said, how could you, this is all over a year this was going on. I said, what's going on? I said, how is it that you're not getting sick? Because pneumonia is contagious. And her husband had it that winter, the year he had it twice. And I said, how is it that you're not getting sick? She said, well, you think maybe it's because I wear a cross? I said, what? I said, you're wearing a cross and you don't have your husband wear a cross? Your children don't wear a cross every day when they go to school? And I said, you see all this going on around you, and you're wearing a cross, and your children and your husband are not wearing a cross? I said, put crosses on put crosses on your children, and put a cross and tell your husband to wear a cross. That's when they started going back to their faith, to cleansing themselves, and to coming closer to the mysteries of the Orthodox Church, even for having, to the point of having the priests come and do holy unction to their, which is also a service done in the home. And that's when they were healed. So when she put the cross on the children, that's when they started getting better. And she, throughout this whole time, didn't contract or didn't have any type of an illness because of the fact she was the only one in the family wearing a cross. So may the sign of the cross, may the strength of the cross always protect you and your family. Don't forget to always do your cross on you, morning, noon, and night, over your food. Don't forget the many saints of Jesus Christ who were given poison to drink, especially in the first centuries of our church, who, when making a sign of the cross over their poisoned cup of, deadly poison they were given to drink, drank it as if it was pure water. One of these saints was St. John the Theologian. There's an icon of St. John the Theologian where he's making the sign of the cross over the cup, and of course he drinks it and nothing happens to him because the strength of the poison is nullified. And another saint that comes to my mind is St. George, the victorious, the miracle worker. So God bless you, and may the sign and blessings of the cross be with you and your family. Amen.